What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Exciting show today. Got my man, Chef Chris Hill, kind of Atlanta and Virginia, so you move around a little bit. Thanks for taking some time this morning.
Absolutely, man. It's fun to be here.
Yeah, so I came up on you quite a while ago and then really was inspired by your work watching one of your TED Talks where you really kind of broke down some of the principles of thinking about the industry and who we are within the industry very differently. So very much like a bedrock to kind of the philosophy that we deploy here at Best Served. So let's give people just a quick snapshot of your background a little bit, because the industry was a second career for you, and then you kind of have a different outlook on it, maybe partially because you came into it as a second career. So kind of give people a little bit of the backstory.
Yeah, thanks, Jensen. So like a lot of folks, start out in the industry as a high school kid, need a job, worked at the Atlanta Fish Market there under a great chef, Bobby Holly. I got to learn all about fish and seafood and how to clean soft-shell crabs and different types of clams and oysters, and it was incredible. So that kind of cemented my interest in cooking and restaurants, but felt like I needed to kind of go to school to follow my parents' advice, like a lot of us do. So I went to college, University of Alabama, got a double major in English and Spanish. Went back, got a master's in marketing, did consulting for about a year and a half. Realized I didn't want to sit at a desk the rest of my life. Ended up moving up to Virginia to work with my cousin who owns some restaurants. Up and went up, kind of grew into becoming the executive chef there. Ran that for 5 years, won a bunch of local awards. Kind of learned my style, my perspective, kind of who I was as a chef, and then started building this brand for myself. Now I do a lot of writing and speaking about the industry, company culture, leadership, building a personal brand, and I think a lot of that stuff's very timely, especially with what's going on right now. So that's it, kind of in a nutshell.
I like that. So for you then, it was different because a lot of times people talk about get a real job, right? This is a transient stop off when you are in high school, college, working your way to something better. We believe that this is better. And so you were in that 9 to 5, you were in that rat race, you were at the desk and you were hating fucking life. Mm-hmm. What did you find, or who did you find, yourself or others? Why did the restaurant industry really compel you?
Well, I'd worked through college and everything for probably 6 or 7 different restaurants, everything from kind of higher end stuff to a serving job for a couple of weeks at Applebee's, which I absolutely hated. But all those experiences kind of help you to figure out what you like and what you don't like. And for me, it was learning that I love this connection with people, with being able to kind of give back and create experiences for people. And so while I had my consulting job, started a catering company doing high-end dinner parties in Atlanta for my folks and their kind of family friends. And the way that I was able to kind of show who I was through food really started to resonate with me. It's also kind of back when the Food Network had actual cooking shows, not just all the competitions. So you can hop on there and learn. This is before you could hop on YouTube and learn anything. So it was a way for me to kind of learn new things, and the connection, the community side of it really was what kind of helped kind of get me excited about it.
Talk about Atlanta. We were rapping about it just before. Had several people, Steven Satterfield's just on, Chad Clevenger, a great friend down in Atlanta, the Giving Kitchen.
Yeah.
We had Jen on from the Giving Kitchen, amazing work that Ryan Smith at Staple House. There's just a lot of good people down there, and people sleep on the food scene. I tell people all the time, Atlanta, do not underestimate Atlanta. It's a top 5 food city, no doubt.
For sure.
Talk about Atlanta a little bit. Well, how, why, who, that was a great place to come up in the industry.
Yeah, so Steven Satterfield, Miller Union, they've been doing great stuff for 15 years now, really supporting the local farms, local communities. And this is a guy who had fought through cancer. I mean, an incredible story. James Beard Awards, incredible. You also have folks. I have a good friend, Art Smith, who has a restaurant right in Buckhead, who he's got restaurants in Chicago and Orlando. But he was Oprah's chef for 8 or 9 years, I guess it was. Yeah. So got to connect with him. Richard Blaze, who's now out in San Diego. I've been able to connect with him a couple times. He did a great job in Atlanta for a long time. Top Chef, kind of the whole like gastronomy scene.
Yeah.
And it was just, there was great restaurants all over the place, and only in the last 5-6 years has it gotten really creative. And Ron Sue, my brother, actually was the GM of his restaurant Lazy Betty for the first 6 months it was open, and he's trying to bring the whole Michelin star system down to Atlanta, which that whole Michelin star, I'm not sure. I think it's a little bit of a scam, or it's
Yeah.
There's obviously a certain thing it brings, but at the same time, some of the best restaurants I've eaten at, places like Asheville, North Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, Atlanta, they aren't going to have Michelin stars because they aren't down in those areas. So but he worked for Eric Repair up in New York for I think 10 years or something like that. So some great talent, and it's cool to see a lot of the way people are bringing different influences and using those influences to kind of redefine what Southern cuisine is.
Yeah, I love it. And not only Southern cuisine, but American cuisine. And then Buford Highway. For anybody down there, now, when I say Buford Highway, it brings emotion to them. One of the best strips from Asian food to Latino food across the board. Unbelievable.
Ethiopian, incredible.
Yeah, incredible. And I always give a shout out to Tasty China, the Szechuan place. Unbelievable as well. Right. So Atlanta really set the tone for you. And then you got really into kind of bringing maybe some of your marketing background or the way that you view the lens of kind of brand when it comes to restaurants, leadership. Let's talk about that. How did you make the pivot towards, when we're talking about pivots now, you made a pivot into saying, I need to think about the industry more holistically. You wrote a book, the TED Talks, you really got out there on the circuit, and we're kind of pushing that message out there. Why was that important, and kind of how did that come about?
Well, I always knew I wanted to play a big role in whatever it was I was going to do with my life, and having the restaurant was amazing. I was kind of the chef operating partner for 5 years, served probably 150, 200 people a day. But I said, well, maybe there's an opportunity to serve more people, and what would that look like? I, at the same time, wrote an article called Dear Chefs that went kind of crazy viral, and I was able to kind of build a following leading up to that, but that obviously helped a lot. But what that also did was it showed me that there's these conversations about the industry that aren't really being had. I wrote this as inspiration, but also kind of in a place where I was feeling frustrated. I was working all the time. I was trying to make this restaurant thing work. And I had a relationship with who is my now wife, who she had a 9-to-5 corporate job. She didn't get it. And so I worked one night, wrote it, and said, and the response I got made me understand that there is a bigger role to play in the industry, and to maybe help facilitate some of these conversations, create a community around these ideas of creating a successful career in the kitchen. What does that look like, and throwing some things out there to help people. So yeah.
So talk about some of the kind of the pillars, the philosophies that you have. Just give us an outline for people, because I think the way that you approach it, it's very thoughtful. It's also very methodical and practical, which a lot of times in the restaurant industry, marketing, advertising, brand, they sound like snake oil, like it's voodoo, right? We're so working with our hands, and I know you talk about working with your hands, that sometimes talking about leadership, if you can't touch it, it's not real for us in the industry. So you laid it out in a way that I thought was simple, that kind of brought together your chef and your marketing kind of mindset and background. So lay that out for us a little bit.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting because you think of the idea of like leadership and company culture, and then you think of things like branding and marketing, and most people would say, well, those are two very different ideas. But when you think about it, the company culture you create, the environment, the way you make your staff feel, they're the ones that are going to help connect with the customers. They're the ones that are going to put the right food out the right way all the time. They're the ones that are going to buy into the mission. And if you aren't creating that leadership at the top, I love what Ming Tsai said in the episode, where he said, it's great to have people that are your peers admire and respect you, but what's really important is the ones that are below you. I had a dishwasher, Margot from Mexico, who I wrote an article called what was it? I'm blanking on the name of the article, but kind of went viral itself, talking about this guy working so hard for his family to send money back home, and what it was like being an immigrant, just busting his ass all the time. And you only can do that if you have the people under you that respect and value you, and then that creates the vibe, the energy, the culture that you are then able to say, "This is who we are." When you're trying to get new customers or you're trying to get new employees, do people come to you because they need a job, or they say, "Hey, I want to go work, for Chef Jensen because this is what he stands for. This is what he stands for, and I believe in the same thing." So they're very interconnected, and I think right now, the more we can share those ideas and what we're about, the better off we're going to be. Maybe in the short term, but definitely once things go back to normal. At the end of the day, we're all going to go back to opening back up. Hopefully somewhere near full capacity. What's going to get somebody to choose your restaurant or choose to work for you when they have all these other opportunities?
I could not agree more. And there's just so much white noise, so much competition, so much running through walls in our industry. It's a strength and a weakness. And so when I think about one of the other pieces that you have out there, Lead Like a Chef, I was really fascinated in that, because thinking of myself as a leader and knowing that every time I've succeeded, it's because I recognize that I work for my team, not the other way around. And every single time, like binary, every single time that I've failed, it's because I took people for granted, read too many newspaper clippings, whatever that was. And so Lead Like a Chef is a polarizing, potentially contradictory term as well, because does it mean lead like a chef, getting a plate thrown at your head? Does it mean yelling and screaming? Or does it mean the true essence of leadership? So unpack that for us a little bit.
Yeah. So actually I start the book off talking about that dichotomy, right? You have like the idea of like Gordon Ramsay on Kitchen Nightmares, where he's, F this, F that, y'all are killing that whole thing. And then there's real examples, not even because some of that might be for TV, whatever else. John Taft from Bar Rescue, same kind of idea. But you also have, chefs like Hester Blumenthal out in the UK was very known for that. Marco Pierre White, so there's this whole idea there's been a stigma attached to a chef, right? Hothead. And listen, earlier in my career, I was kind of that way, probably more times than not than frustration, but also wanting to make sure that you put your food out the right way, the dishes the right way, and you expect your staff to do everything the way you would, right? Which is why I think a lot of us are so not willing to give up control. But I've been there before, right? I want to make sure every dish looks the way I would. I want that garnish to be just the way I would put that garnish on there. And at the end of the day, that just holds things back. But what I have noticed is, aside from maybe the military, the environment, the camaraderie you're able to create in a kitchen is unlike just about anything else. You work hard, you're slogging through the trenches. It takes everybody from the dishwasher all the way up the line to buy in, to do the right thing, to have each other's backs. And when you have that kind of harmony, it's a beautiful thing to watch. So I'm taking those ideas and some great examples and applying that to the chef world, but also the business world.
So the chef world, the business world, the restaurant world right now is in massive turmoil. I mean, the hardest hit industry is pretty safe bet to say it like that when it comes to the numbers of unemployment, businesses going out of business, the amount of independent restaurants. Of the 660,000 restaurants, 90% of those are independently owned, and they're struggling right now. So when you're thinking about this moment and the leadership I know so many people are turning to you saying, Chris, what the fuck do we do right now? And all you can do is give them that bedrock, because there isn't a good answer. Right. There's a very personal path, but it's very personal. How are you navigating that as somebody that, I know is getting hit up daily with the ask of what do I do?
Yeah. So the first thing I would encourage, folks out there listening to this, watching this, I'm sure there's a number of people that are in independent restaurants. I don't know if, Jensen, you've been paying attention to the Independent Restaurant Coalition with Will Guidara. They're doing some great stuff to try and get more awareness. I know earlier this week he was in the White House, talking to the president, putting a plan out there. It sounds like some things are in the works. So it sounds like the government's willing to work with us to try to help us along as restaurant people, as an industry. But at the end of the day, also, you wrote an article, made a video of it called, How We're Really Going to Save the Restaurant Industry. And it talks about, we can rely on the government. We can, get these stipends. We can get, there's a whole situation of unemployment right now. But at the end of the day, like, we're a resilient industry, and it's going to take all of us kind of getting on board together and kind of powering through. We're going to have some casualties along the way. But on the other side of this, there's going to definitely be an opportunity for new folks to open new places. I'm looking at getting back in the restaurant game, maybe, and maybe now is a good opportunity to do that too. So seeing it as an opportunity as well. And for those that are at home stuck, can't go to work, or maybe they're working part time, well, what can you do right now between now and June 1st or July 1st, whenever things open back up? What can you do to learn and get better and to grow in the craft? Because other people are going to be at home watching Netflix and playing video games, and maybe you are too. And you definitely have an opportunity to kind of get ahead.
Yeah, for sure. Level up right now is absolutely an opportunity, and diversifying skill set. I see a lot of opportunity and time to do that. And honestly, slow down. How often do you slow down in a restaurant? A lot of times we can't see the forest through the trees because we're so go, go, go all the time. So when you're reflecting on that, a moment to kind of envision and empower and create the industry that we want to see, when you have a couple high level items that you're like, I would love it, absolutely love it if our industry reflected X, Y, and Z. What are a couple of those things that you hope for the future of the industry? We have a moment to be able to actually redefine what that means.
Well, one of the things, and I think you maybe talked about on here before, but with taking care of staff. So how are we able to maybe in the future provide better benefits and things of that nature? That's a big one. Right now there's too many reasons why people might go, do something else for work. This is definitely going to be a crossroads, I think, for certain people who are maybe in the industry and need a job to take a step back and say, well, maybe I should just go drive a UPS and make $15, $18 an hour, get the benefit, not have to work on the weekends, not have to work till midnight, not to work on Mother's Day. So that will, I think, hopefully weed out some of the people that aren't meant to be here in the first place. And for the ones that are left over, all right, well, let's find a way to make this as meaningful as possible, and to give them the opportunities that they need to and will want to have in order to keep moving this industry forward. I think at the end of the day, the obligation and the opportunity to hopefully leave things in a better place than how they were when we got here.
Yeah, I'm gonna vanish real quick. I got the text message that the sound's a little wonky. Hold on.
Gotcha.
It's the reset we're doing all right now.
All right, cool. So there's a great opportunity, I think. And it looks like he's back.
And he's back. You're a host. You could have just started rapping for us.
I was about to. Then I saw it says the host is back. So here we are.
Ah, man, I hear it. Yeah, it's connectivity, man. The robots, they're also overloaded right now. So, all right, you mentioned a little nugget drop there on you potentially looking at getting back on the restaurant side of the industry, since you've kind of been in the leadership and brand and messaging and consulting and strategy side of it. Why is that something you're thinking about? And then what's a couple things that if you, Chris Hill, are saying, all right, I see the opportunity, the challenges, I see the white space, kind of where do you go within the industry to kind of create your own success, as that's an important moniker for you?
Yeah, well, so I've been toying around with that idea for a while now. Actually, when I sold the Chairman restaurant, I had plans to actually open up in Atlanta with my brother. He's been mixology, cocktail side of things, and now he's actually in the wine world. But had a concept called Smoke and Still, which is kind of modern barbecue and bourbon, which I think we should do well in a lot of different markets, whether it's down in Atlanta or up here in Virginia. But it really kind of stems from the fact that I love the industry. I love the connection we're able to make with customers, with employees, and to be able to have something called a menu that you're able to put out there, and it's yours and it's your team's, and you're able to kind of empower those people along the way as well.
I love hearing that. And so within that, when a lot of people are struggling in the restaurant industry right now, we know that there's going to be increased costs. Like I see every day, you know, my beef cost has doubled, things like that. Why then do you think that this is a moment to actually jump into the game, put on your entrepreneurial hat? Do you see that there is an actual opportunity, or are you emotional about it and really want to get in there and make something happen? Like, where do those things overlap for you?
Well, I'm definitely emotional about it. I've always been a little bit spontaneous in that sense, but at the same time, you look at it just by nature of kind of simple up in economics. You have like a supply and demand issue where if 10% of the restaurants close down, now you have 10% of the landlords that can't fill whatever spaces they have. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity to work with landlords on getting, you know, a really good, like maybe percentage type lease versus, you know, a flat fee. I mean, how long do you envision this going on for?
2 years. I think a restaurant has to make a 2-year plan and incremental growth coming out of that. There's no way that they get back to whatever normal is. Costs of everything in operations only going to go up. But you make a big point of landlords, because restaurant industries fueled part of their own challenge in that we got so fucking hot. We became the cool kids. We used to be the pirates, the island of misfit toys, the band of rebels. All of a sudden, we became the most popular ones, and that drove up a lot of those. All of a sudden, real estate development's like, we got to have the hot chef. What's the cool neighborhood? How do we create, you know, the gentrification to be able to drive up those prices? Restaurants drove so much attention, so much traffic, so much commerce to those areas that then their rent went from $13 a square foot to $27 a square foot to $42 a square foot triple net, and it's not sustainable. And we see that teetering back the other way. So I think you're right on when you're talking about that conversation. When you think about what people need right now from restaurants, community you mentioned, the food style you mentioned, comfort food comes up a lot. What things, as a chef who's won the awards, done the glitzy, glossy, high def stuff, are you rethinking the way you mentioned barbecue and bourbon? Are you rethinking the way that you are delivering hospitality and maybe not being as chefy in that moment?
Yeah, I think you made a really good point. So there will be the creative, you know, pushing the boxes in the future. I think what we need to really focus on right now is, you know, what's going to make somebody come back to my place versus somebody else's. And to me, that seems like creating a place where people can feel safe to go into. You know, like I know, you know, John Taffer's talked about having, you know, cameras in the kitchen, which that could go one of two ways. It could create transparency, but also I can tell you I've made certain mistakes in the kitchen, you know, from food safety standpoint that wouldn't kill somebody, but might be seen as not the proper thing to do. And is that going to just create like a micro lens for people to nitpick and find, you know, small ways to not value what we're doing? But so I think make people feel safe. You know, what kind of situations do you have where do you have more towards reservations where people are able to show up at the right time versus you used to show up and just get on the wait list for an hour on a Friday night? Do you have more kind of no contact, you know, payment methods like on Google Pay or Apple Pay? And, do you have, instead of, you know, handheld menus, do you have QR codes somebody scans and then the pie plates on their phone? You know, things like that to consider, I think, will help people kind of build that trust that really sucks because we didn't really do anything as an industry to lose it.
Yeah, Chris, I love it. I knew that this was going to be a thoughtful conversation. The leadership that you've kind of shown, I'm really into the idea of you opening up a restaurant in Atlanta, because I really want to get back down to Atlanta, and that would be another reason to get down there. And so I appreciate the thought, the leadership, and the attention that you give to the humans in the industry. The most important asset that we have, it's not what goes on the plate, it's who gets it to the plate. And so I really appreciate that. Chris Hill, man, great conversation. Keep doing what you're doing. Everybody, make sure, go check out Chef Chris Hill. He does some really cool pre-shifts And then you also do after dinner drinks or shift drink as another platform to just create communication. And I love just seeing you like raw at 1 a.m. saying, people, what's on your mind? And just, like real and sometimes fumbling through people asking you questions. I think it's so important to just create the lines of communication. So thank you for that as well.
Yeah, man. Sometimes I feel like I have some of the answers, but oftentimes there's questions and comments that they're asked, and people there watching, whether it's 25 or 50 or however many, there's people there that are watching that have already answered the question before I've been able to get to it, which is cool. So it shows the community that we all love and are a part of.
Yeah, you're the conduit for that. You're creating the platform for people to be able to communicate with each other, which is what we always need. And in this time, since we're built on face-to-face interactions and we can't, having voices like yours and platforms like yours, I think is important. So
when you're on, man, appreciate all you do.
Thank you so much. All right, Chris, be good. Have a good day.
You too, bro. Take care.
Yeah. Check out his the shows that he's doing for sure. It's just conversations, with humans in hospitality. I think it's important. He highlights, the hashtag unsung hospitality heroes. That this is what this show is built on, is the people that matter, who really matters. So I'm grateful for that. And his TED Talks as well. Just, it's a different skew on the industry. It's a different thinking. And I always really appreciate thinking. So, all right. Tomorrow's show, Saturday. I don't even know what day this is. The 23rd, May 23rd? I think it might be May 23rd tomorrow. We have on the founders of Fireside at 5, a fireside chat platform spanning a lot of industries, but definitely they are doing a lot of work in hospitality. I got to be in on one as well and talk to a handful of really smart people across the segments of the industry. So check that episode out. Gertie and Connor, the founders, are going to be on, so I'm excited to talk with them. And just a little Easter egg, you may be seeing some more efforts between Fireside of 5 and Best Served. So little foreshadowing there. All right, everyone, be good.